consistency is the hardest thing for real estate agents. They're always putting out fires.
Hello, welcome to episode 247 of the Smart Agents Podcast. As always, my name is Michael Walter, and I'll be your host. On today's episode, we are joined by Lindsay Dreyer, broker owner of Chic Real Estate and founder of Happy Agent Co. With over $1 billion in career sales and 100 plus agents personally coached, Lindsay is on a mission to help agents build businesses they actually love, and that means through referrals. Throughout our conversation, Lindsay shares how she grew her own business and why she is focused so heavily on building a robust referral pipeline. Diving into the common mistakes killing your referrals and advice for positioning yourself as the must-hire agent, Lindsay is full of actionable advice you can take to build your own dream career. But before we get on to the day's featured interview, if you or someone else on your team has an incredible story of real estate success or tips to share with our community, send us a message to feedback@smartagents.com. We're always on the lookout for new guests to inspire our listeners. And lastly, if you enjoyed this conversation and want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents Podcast. We stream on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. All right, let's get on with our conversation with Lindsay Dreyer. If you're interested in learning more about building your own referral-based business, be sure to check out the episode description for links to Lindsay's social channels, coaching programs, and podcast, the Happy Agent Co. podcast. Really, the way I like to start everything out is if we could, just introduce yourself to us a little bit. Tell us who you are and where you are joining us from.
Sure. My name is Lindsay Dreyer. I am a 14-year brokerage owner of Chic Real Estate in the Washington, D.C. market. I am also a coach to top producing agents and brokerage owners at Happy Agent Co. across the country. I'm also a mom of 3 under 10, so I'm definitely pretty busy. And I actually live in New Hampshire and run my brokerage semi-remotely. So that's where I'm joining you from today.
Awesome. Well, tell me, going back to the beginning of your real estate career, what was it that initially got you interested in the industry?
I wanted to make a lot of money. I was a senior in college, and I was looking basically for any career that would help me make as much money as possible because I didn't want to be a poor college student anymore. So I had 2 options. I could go into pharmaceutical sales. I had an offer from a pharmaceutical company. And then I had another offer from a new home construction builder, Pulte Homes. And you guys can probably guess which path I took, but I started selling McMansions in Northern Virginia at the ripe age of 21, which was a pretty wild way to get into the industry in 2004. Right.
So tell me, do you think, going with the new home construction, was that, I have to imagine that was a really good introduction into the industry because you had clients that were coming, looking for these businesses. The lead generation wasn't as crazy, but you got to, get the insights of the psychology behind the buying process.
Absolutely. And Pulte Homes in particular had such a good training program that I was able to pre-approve clients. So I was like a mortgage ninja. They taught us everything about construction. So I'm learning about like jack studs and like all of that stuff. And so I had a solid background on homes and finance. And then obviously, in addition, they're training you on sales. So at 22, so a year in, I feel like I was at the top of my game just because of that training and mentorship that I received at Pulte. So I'm forever grateful for that experience because of that.
Right. So when did you go out and kind of go the more traditional, residential and join a brokerage?
That was when the market crashed in late 2007. So I was at a community that was about an hour and a half outside of DC, and I wasn't seeing a living soul. And I was not on salary, obviously commission only. And I was 25 and I had a mortgage to pay and I was single. So I was very scared and realized I need to pay my bills. And so I saw that the crash actually was a good thing for the District of Columbia in particular, where I was living, because it brought affordability back for first-time buyers. And so with that market crash, there were a lot of incentives. Interest rates were still really favorable. Prices came down. And there really wasn't an agent that was taking advantage of those first-time millennial buyers that were coming up in 2007, 2008. So my first year out, I did $6 million in sales. And I was really happy because I'm like, oh, my hunch was right. Like these people actually do want an agent that understands them. And I was luckily in the position where I was very experienced, very knowledgeable at a very young age. And so I was able to relate to these people or these clients, I think in a way that a lot of the older agents couldn't. And I was also able to use technology to find clients, which a lot of my brokers at the time thought I was absolutely crazy that I was finding clients on the internet.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that, what were some of your lead generation strategies, and in particular, what, specific, internet tools and things were you using?
Okay, so we're going back into like the cave age here.
Right.
So I actually had a internship with one of the first SEO companies in high school, which is crazy. So this was like the 90s. And I was a webmaster for them. So I started designing websites when I was 14. So websites and the internet have always been very comfortable for me. And I have my degree in marketing. So I basically launched a website and then ran Google ads. And there was no one doing that. I also was using Craigslist, which, I mean, obviously we aren't really using that anymore, but I would get so many clients from that. And I would do workshops for first-time buyers. And then I also had this pretty robust past client network from my new home sales construction. So I took all of those clients, put them in my database, and then really started a nurture campaign with them where I was staying in touch, building relationships, letting them know I went out on my own, and that they could send clients to me. And they did.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, seeing the value in the past clients and the referral, pipeline early on in your career. I think sometimes that's one of those that it takes people a little while to like kind of ramp up to really kind of start doing that, but putting those things into place to staying top of mind with those past clients. What was it that led you down that path? Was there something that you listened to, saw somebody else doing it, or was it just like, kind of a thing that you wanted to do with your clients?
I think it was that I had built really close relationships with these people over the course of them building their home. So new construction is a very different animal. The homes typically aren't ready. So you're nurturing that relationship over the course of 6 to 12 months a lot of times. And so it's not like those were like a one and done transaction for me. I really got to know them. I got to know their families, and I considered them really close friends. Like those were real relationships. So when I left Pulte Homes, it felt wrong for me to not stay in touch with them. And so it was kind of just this natural extension of, I may not be there anymore, but if you ever need anything, whether it's a connection at Pulte or whether you need me to help you with your house or whatever you need, I'm still here. I'm still around.
Yeah. When you mentioned doing, the new home buyer seminars and things like that. I think, looking back, when my wife and I were first looking for a home, it was like, super overwhelming. We didn't know what we were doing. We were young. And if we would have had somebody that was, our age and kind of leading us through the process, kind of through that lens, I think that would have been so helpful. So how were you, kind of marketing those seminars to get people to join them?
So it was a combination of Craigslist, believe it or not, social media, kind of, but then a lot of it was just word of mouth. And then I had a mailing list because I did have leads coming in. So it was really just any way I could get them out. I actually will say my sphere was a pretty big source of them. So I owned a home. I was relatively young. So a lot of people knew that I knew what I was doing. And so I would just blast it to my friends. I would be like, if you or anyone you know is curious about buying a house, it's a really awesome time to do it. Let me know. It's oftentimes cheaper than renting, especially with the tax breaks. And so I got a lot of people who were just curious. And I think so much of it was everyone thought it was out of reach. And it was just opening up possibilities for people and being very non-judgmental, because I think a lot of the older agents in the market were very condescending and they didn't want to work with first-time buyers, and they didn't have the patience and the mindset to really educate them, sit them down, spend time with them. And for me, it wasn't about making the sale. It was really about helping them build wealth and own a home. And just like, it's still a dream of so many people. And so it was really exciting to be able to help people who were my age start building some serious wealth. And I mean, even to this day, I have people who actually have a client recently who came back to me 10 years later. And they said, we would never use another person to sell this house because the amount of equity that we have built because of you is insane. And we want you to get a piece of that with your commission. And I'm like, what? That's the nicest thing I think anyone's ever said to me.
Right. That's awesome. Well, so I mean, obviously, it's very successful. And what, kind of moving forward, launching your own brokerage, what kind of went into that? And talk to me about, what you were wanting to do with your own brokerage that was different from your previous experiences.
Yeah, great question. So I was 28 years old and I feel like I was like Goldilocks at that time. So I had been at a big brokerage, very corporate. That's where I started. I went to a mid-sized boutique and then I went to a total startup where it was me and the guy who started the brokerage. So I got a taste of kind of all of those different environments. And really what they all had in common was that they didn't know how to support a tech-savvy, millennial, marketing-savvy real estate agent. All of their marketing was crap. It was so generic. The messaging just felt so unpersonal and it just didn't fit me or my clientele. And so I was like, screw this. I'm just going to start my own brokerage and we'll just see how it goes. So I was 28, went out on my own in 2011. And the whole reason was I just knew there were more real estate agents out there that wanted more support. And they wanted a broker who was innovative, but also a partner in their business where if you're going to be giving me a 30% split, you better get something for that 30%. And so that's always been important to me because I feel that way. If I'm at a brokerage and I'm giving up part of my commission, there needs to be some value exchange there. And that just was not the case at any of the brokerages that I was at.
Right. So when you we're bringing on, when you bring on new agents, what's kind of that, playbook to get them onboarded and get them, diving into the technology and really kind of tailoring it for their own personal brand?
Yeah. So right now at my brokerage, we have what we call the 30-day challenge. And that is really meant to give an agent a taste of what it's like to be a full-time agent. And it also gets them onboarded to our systems and really just plugged into everything. So something I'm really proud of is that we do have an ecosystem that's not just tech, but it's also just practical marketing. So we have property collaboration, you have a CRM, and then on the back end, we're helping you with our referrals on repeat program, which is essentially auto nurture for your sphere, your database. So we're putting out a custom postcard every month for our agents, and that's included in the split. We do a custom email newsletter for our agents. We do moving box kit custom, which is so great. And so that goes to every buyer and seller client. And then we do client gifting. So all of that is on autopilot. Our agents don't have to execute any of that. And it's really fulfilling and rewarding when we hear from our agents, oh my gosh, I get a referral every single time one of those postcards goes out. And that's great. Like that's what I want. I want to be a marketing partner with our agents. And so if they want to run client events, we're helping them with those invites. We're helping them with the RSVP pages. So anything we can do to help take that stuff off of our agents' plates, we're going to do that because more business for them, better relationships with their sphere, that just builds on itself. And consistency is the hardest thing for real estate agents. They're always putting out fires. Even with my coaching clients, like that is a struggle. It's like getting that postcard out every month, getting that email newsletter out, hosting the event. There's like an accountability piece that has to happen if you're doing it yourself. But if your broker can just execute it for you, hello, dreams come true.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's one of those, I know so many agents that would love that marketing partner in things. Cause a lot of times it's, we'll help you. We'll provide you with the leads, but you're totally on your own to what to do with them. And then that whole, staying in touch with them is, again, it's left up to so many people on their own. And that's where a lot of people, kind of fall off. It's like, I'm always chasing the next.
Right.
And they just don't have time to nurture the past. And I think what you're doing with that's awesome. Like I can definitely see why there's a lot of folks that are happy to work with you. And
we've had agents who come from a cap brokerage where they cap every year, but because they have that ongoing support with us monthly, they're like, yes, like, I don't care that I cap, but like, you don't have a cap, but that's fine. That keeps me invested as the broker in your business because we're building this together.
Yeah, definitely. And, in a moment, I really want to get into a lot of your, tips for gaining referrals. But, before we do that, tell me about your coaching program and how that all got started.
Yeah. So Happy Agent Co. was born out of the market downturn in 2023. I'm the kind of person that just gets so bored when I'm not busy. And the market was just kind of slow. It really wasn't super busy. And so I opened up my books to coach people, any agents across the country. I ended up getting some independent brokerage owners, which was really fun to work with, some top producing agents. And it really revolves around the Happy Agent method, which is basically how to build a holistic real estate business that doesn't burn you out, that is maintainable, and that you just love, that really fits your life. Because I think so often we're just hustling and trying to make as much money as possible, but there's not a strong why behind it. And there's also not intention around your growth. A lot of people think they have to start a team, but maybe it makes sense for them to be a solo agent for the rest of their career. Or maybe they thought they wanted to be a solo agent, but it makes sense for them to start a team. And so it's really helping people figure out how to scale with intention and also just get really organized so they're running their business like a CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question. So you and I, you talk about, the time frame when you were in college. We're about the same age. So I think it's really interesting. I think our generation is really kind of like that. I feel like, even with my own personal journey, that holistic approach to work, there is that work-life balance that I think we are now really focused on.
Definitely.
Whereas the previous generations wasn't. It was like charged full ahead. And what is it, about that whole idea of having the work-life balance, why do you think that's happened?
I think part of it is that the traditional voices in coaching have been older and they've been male. And I think the majority of real estate agents, obviously it's women. And I think women have a lot more pressure, in particular when they become moms, if they choose that route. And balancing motherhood and balancing being a real estate agent is a really difficult balancing act. And I do not think that the traditional male coaches understand that. And I think that it's sometimes to the detriment of the agent who's being coached because they're being forced to burn themselves out by waking up at 5 a.m. when that makes 0 sense for them in their life, when those calls could easily be made at noon when the baby's napping or whatever. So I think we have like a little bit, we also, I think, saw our parents do this. And I have zero interest in being my dad. No offense, Dad. But like, I just don't want his life. I don't want his career. Like, I'm surprised he hasn't dropped dead of a heart attack by now. And like, I want something where it's like, I get to live my life, enjoy my life. I have wealth. Like, don't get me wrong. That's definitely part of it. But it hasn't been at the expense of my relationships, my mental health, my physical health. Like, I love my life. And I want other people to really know that they can do it too, even if it feels not possible. Like, it requires hard work. Don't get me wrong. There's discipline and hard work involved, but there is no one size fits all.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, the definition of success isn't that one size fits all anymore. And I think that kind of mental switch, I think is allowing people to really determine what does my success look like?
Exactly.
Is it, it's totally fine. Like, if you want to go chase, if everything revolves around that number in that bank account, totally cool. But for some people, it's how do I balance those, maybe I want to take that 1 month vacation and my business, like I'm totally fine with not stressed over it.
Exactly. Like summers are kind of my like sacred space because we have an RV and we go on super fun adventures with the 3 kids. And don't get me wrong, I'm still working, but it's in a different capacity than I work when the kids are in school all year. And that's a choice I've made. Does it mean I don't make as much money? Potentially. Do I really care? Not really.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I think, getting back to some of the cornerstones of your coaching, to really create those types of businesses where you're able to bring in clients and not have to overwhelm yourself and work all the time. Referrals is definitely the way.
Oh my gosh, referrals are amazing. Yes, it's just this thing that constantly feeds you. It's what allowed me to start a brokerage, was because I had too much business coming in. And that's a really great place to be. Who doesn't want that? Because you can either get a buyer's agent or refer it out, get a referral fee.
Right. So what do you think, why do you think agents, struggle so much with referrals, and what are some of the tips and tools that you coach your clients to start building that pipeline?
So referrals, I think the first thing is it's not a mystery. There's actually a science behind it. And there's really 2 pieces to building a referral-based business. The first is you have to be excellent. You have to be excellent at your craft, and you have to know how to deliver an incredible client experience. The second is you have to stay top of mind. You can't ghost them after closing. And agents struggle with one or the other or both, but that's where we really start with coaching and figuring out where are you struggling. And the being excellent, oh my gosh, there's so many pieces to that. But there is a book that's called The Art and Science of Referrals, Get Nude, which is really good. But it was actually industry agnostic, so it's not from the real estate industry specifically. But the key pieces are you aren't differentiated, you aren't standing out from the other agents in the market. Your clients or people in your sphere don't know exactly what you do as a real estate agent. I think we take that for granted. We think everyone knows what our job is. And then they also don't know who you help. So maybe they think you just work with renters, or maybe they think you just work with buyers. That's a really important piece to communicate. I help buyers and sellers and renters, or I help XYZ. I help people in this neighborhood. So whatever your niche is. The other one, which is like my huge pet peeve, oh gosh, is that you just are not a dependable person. Yeah. Real estate agents who show up late to everything, you're a mess and you're not getting referrals. No offense, but like you're just not. People don't want to refer people who are late or look like a hot mess or just aren't dependable. You don't follow up when you say you're going to follow up. That's a big thing. And then the other piece, which I think is like, we've really gotten into it since the post-settlement world, which is they think you're overpaid.
Yeah.
And we are not expressing our value. We aren't showing them what we're doing for our job. We are not showing them what we do behind the scenes. They don't know all of the work that we are doing. So much of it is invisible. And we have to make that invisible work visible to our clients, whether that's BCCing them, whether that's giving them a lot of updates on what you're doing. But there's so much labor that occurs behind the scenes that our clients don't see. And they need to see it because that's where we're earning our commission. I think, there's no stat, this is my like fake stat, but I think 70% of what we do is not visible to our clients. Yeah. So it's your job to make sure you're getting credit for what you're doing. Right. It's really important.
Yeah. And I think, that whole, looping your clients in and showing them, kind of through the process. I think that starts with that initial conversation.
Totally.
Like, these are the things that we're going to do. And even if it's just like a checklist that, hey, I just want you to have this so the steps that I'm taking to get this. This isn't anything that you don't have to worry about any of these things, but these are all the steps that we're going through throughout this transaction. I think just by having a checklist like that shows them the amount of things you're doing.
We have a slide in our buyer presentation and listing presentation about how deals fall apart, like the risks of a real estate transaction. And when I am presenting that to a client, I'm like, this is where I earn my money. I'm like an insurance policy to make sure that your deal goes through. So it's like, these are all the horrible things that could happen to you. Like you could lose your deposit. You could buy a lemon of a house. So there's like a whole list we have. And I want it to be easy, and I want people to be able to communicate, like, here's all the things I'm doing. A lot of it is I'm just making sure this doesn't fall apart, and I'm making sure this goes well.
Yeah. And I think so many times people are hesitant to share those types of things because they don't want to scare off, that client. But, if you're staying in communication, and, there's going to be times when things happen. But if you've communicated it on the front end, A, it's not a surprise. And, B, if everything goes smooth sailing, they know that, hey, you made sure that none of those things happened to me.
Right. It's not always sunshine and roses. Like real estate is hard, and getting to closing is difficult. There are so many landmines along the way, and it's our job to basically protect our clients from those landmines as much as possible.
Yeah. What, outside of, the one-on-one communication with your clients, what are some of the other things that people and agents can be doing to make sure that their sphere knows all the different things that they're doing?
That's a good question. I think you nailed have a system and have a process for things. So it's really making sure that part of it is one-on-one communication, but part of it is also just having your checklist and having your system squared away, and really making sure that you're following a process with every client. That also helps you build referrals, because that means you're dependable. When your clients know you have a process, they know that if they send their friend to you or their family member to you, that family member is going to get the same level of experience or that same level of service that they did. So having a repeatable, predictable process that you put all your clients through doesn't just help that one client and you run more smoothly, but it also signals to that person that you're dependable, that you're going to deliver a consistent experience, because people don't refer to just refer. They refer because they want to look good. Yeah. They want that person to think they're great because they hooked them up with an amazing real estate agent. And if they don't think that's going to happen, they're not sending people your way.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's one of those real world, I know you're not, suggesting a restaurant that you sat there for 45 minutes waiting on your drink, so it's the same. You just got to have that same kind of mindset. Like if you're the one making the suggestion, you want it to, it's a reflection on you. And so you want it to,
you want it to look good.
Right.
You don't want to look like you made a bad recommendation.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
What, and you mentioned, being dependable and making sure that you have those repeatable, systems. And I think sometimes, the idea of being dependable doesn't mean you have to answer your phone at 9:00 at night.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
That is a misconception. Yes.
And I think it's the fact you lay out your expectations and your, kind of time frame with your clients. And as long as you're checking those boxes and you are meeting those expectations that you put in place early on, that's where the dependable comes in.
Yes. It's boundaries. Also, like clients don't mind boundaries. Like my boundary is I turn off at 7 p.m. unless we're in active negotiations that are going to go beyond 7 p.m. But nothing good happens in real estate after 7 p.m. usually. It's a mess usually. So I'm like, nope, I got to focus on family, focus on bedtime, focus on my wind down, because I do not need to be negotiating deals at 11 p.m. with my clients in a bad mental state. The other side, probably tired too. Nothing good happens when in that case. It can wait till the morning.
Yeah. What are, so outside of the, a lot of the stuff we talked about is that one-on-one communication with our, with the clients, but taking it outside of that and bringing, marketing to new leads and your sphere that maybe have followed you on social media, things like that. What are some things that you can do to portray this dependability and your market knowledge without looking like, the bad lawyer billboard and things like that up there?
I know. So I have a story for you because I think it's a really interesting one. So my massage therapist knows I'm a real estate agent. And I think she thinks I'm a really great person and a good real estate agent, but she kind of only knows me in one context, which is coming to get a massage, so I'm a very different person, I think, in that context. So she's in my sphere and she listed her property with somebody else. And I was a little surprised. And I was like, can you just look, I'm not mad. I just want to know why. Just super curious. I thought we had a really good relationship. And she goes, yeah, I just didn't think you would be aggressive enough. And that was a huge wake-up call for me because I am psychopath aggressive when it comes to negotiating. It's just she knew me in a context of I'm here to relax. I'm here to get a massage. I'm very zen. But there's a side of me in work where I'm crazy. I will go to bat hardcore for my clients. And so she has never seen that side of me. So I think the first thing is if you want to get sphere, they haven't transacted with you, they don't know you in that real estate agent context, you have to be very careful about how you're presenting yourself to the world if you want to get business from your sphere. So really think about how do I want them to perceive me? How do I want them to view me? Because I would want people to see me as a badass negotiator. I want people to think that about me. And then you have to be kind of intentional about the content you're putting out. And so if you're putting out that your life is a dumpster fire and your ex-husband is doing this and your new boyfriend is this and your kids are this and you just everything's crazy, no one's going to want to work with you. Right. And that is just the honest truth. You're a public figure, unfortunately, when you get into real estate. So you have to be very careful about curating your online content. And it shouldn't all be real estate. They want to work with people. So you can be real about who you are, but you have to always be thinking through the lens of your sphere or the people that you'd be wanting to get business from. And so it's a healthy mix of I'm an authority in real estate, which I think can be told through really good stories about client successes or just client disappointments. Those are also really powerful. And then just personal content, maybe you're a dog mom, maybe you're a real mom, maybe you love yoga, maybe you like pottery, maybe you're fishing, whatever. Right. But it's people want to, they don't just want to see just sold. I'm a real estate machine. That's boring.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, showing yourself in, especially, if you're wanting to be that person that is portrayed as that community expert and that community advisor, show yourself off out doing things in the community, and being involved in your community. But to your same point, if I was looking for a doctor or whatever it is, and I happen to find their Instagram page and it's out them, partying at different raves, it's you're not the dude that I'm coming to. I don't want you
anywhere near my body.
Nope, I can't trust that you're gonna be totally alert at 8:00 in the morning for that. So I think there definitely is that hey, put your personality out there, but let's
tone it down.
Right. Let's make sure that this is, the person that you would want to go do some work with.
Exactly. Yeah. We're getting paid a lot of money and people need to be able to trust you right. to get them through that transaction. And if you're out at a rave every night on Molly, that's no good. It's not going to happen.
No, not at all. What, so obviously, there's markets, change and there's always ups and downs, but I think, the best way to combat that is through referrals, because somebody is always going to know somebody else that's going through some type of, maybe it's a hardship or, a job transfer. Really, there's always going to be people looking to buy and sell, no matter what the market conditions are. Outside of, the social medias and those types of things, what are some of your top, and we've talked a lot about them, but, just making sure that you're the most referable that you can be?
So it comes down to being so good at your job and communicating what you do and who you do it for in such a clear, concise, very understandable way. So it could just be, I help move up buyers in Minneapolis. That's great. And a lot of agents, I think, are just so scared to put some kind of like plant the flag somewhere, but you do have to plant the flag somewhere. I think it doesn't mean you're excluding anybody, but you need to have some kind of something that people can like grab onto and be like, oh, you helped me.
Yeah.
Because if you're just too generic, it's not going to work. Like you're just it. And then, once the referrals start rolling in, they don't really care about that. It's like that initial hook is going to get those people in.
Yeah.
So I think it's just being like very intentional about, I want to build a referral-based business. And I think a lot of agents aren't there. They just think they happen automatically. They don't happen automatically. It is a intentional marketing strategy. And it all comes down to client experience during the transaction, after the transaction, your relationship with them. So get really intentional about those things. And then it's all about staying top of mind after closing in a meaningful and memorable way. And I think that is the key. Like agents, if you're not getting enough referrals, that's it. Just take a look at those two things. Are you providing the best experience you can? I know that's a lot. It is a lot, but client journey mapping is a very valuable thing to do. And then it's staying top of mind in a meaningful, memorable way that's personalized to you. Again, like a lot of times it doesn't make sense to just send what your brokerage has available to you. Like those postcards probably aren't that great, or some of them aren't that great. So it's really reflecting who you are as an agent in your staying in touch. And then in staying in touch, there's kind of a combination of both, which is like automated. So like a postcard or like an email newsletter or something like that, or home value alerts, that kind of stuff. But you can't forget the personal. And a lot of agents drop the ball on that because they're like, I have 200 people. It's just not feasible. I'm not saying you have to stay in touch with those 200 people every month, but to have a personal check-in with those people twice a year, I think that's pretty doable if you break it down. And it doesn't have to be a call. I don't want anyone to call me. Please don't call me. I don't want to hear from you unless you're one of my agents and a deal's blowing up is the only time I want to answer the phone. But it could be a voice note. It could be a text message. It could be a handwritten note. Like there are different ways to stay in touch that are meaningful and memorable to people. So again, it's a lot of work, but you have to have systems and intentionality behind it. And then it's not so overwhelming.
Right. And so for the agents that work with you and then also the coaching clients, what are some of the things that you do to kind of get them on the right path? Is that, like that kind of, figuring out who you are and, what is going to resonate, like what's going to resonate with your personality? What's going to come across as, hey, this is genuine.
Right. I think part of it is just you have to kind of craft it. At our brokerage, we have a very specific agent persona. So they're able to use our marketing because we kind of are all the same general persona. So that works for us. On the coaching side, everyone's different. And so one of the things is just you have to be able to craft it to sound like you. And it has to be really, you have to own it. And so whether that's finding a postcard company that maybe like has postcards that are your personality or like really kind of represent you, or writing an email newsletter once a month. It doesn't have to be every week. It could just be a thoughtful, really great, intentional, here's what's going on in the market email. Texting people, sending voice notes. And I think like one of the things is I like to find out what avenues or what channels do you like to use? Like what's comfortable for you? I will tell you, calling has never, ever, ever been on my list the entire time I've been a real estate agent. And anytime someone says you have to make your calls, I think that is a total lie. I really do. It's how your clients want to be interacted with as well. Most of my clients are millennials. They don't want me to call them either. So it's staying in touch in a way that's not only authentic to you, but is also well received from your clients. And I think you're the only one that's going to know that. So that's part of crafting the strategy, which is what feels comfortable for you, but then also what feels welcoming and nurturing to your clients.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, before I let you go, I want, tell me where people can connect with your coaching and learn more about that. But then also I want to ask you about your podcast as well.
Yeah, thanks. So you can find me on Instagram. It is lindsay.dreyer. I love connecting on there. So that's my main platform. So if you want to find me, that's where I am. And then if you want to learn more about what Happy Agent Co. is doing, it's happyagent.co, C-O. We also I'm launching a new program. It's a membership program called Referrals on Repeat. And it's coming soon sometime this summer, which I'm really excited about. But it's going to basically be a way for agents to nurture their sphere, their database, to get referrals in 1 hour a month. And so it will be low cost, but high impact. So if you want to get on that wait list, I gave you the link. So hopefully you can get in the show notes.
Right.
But yeah, let's talk about my podcast. I'd love to.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about it and what spurred that on.
So I had a podcast 2.5 years ago that was targeted just towards general entrepreneurship. And that kind of burned me out. So I put that on pause. I took a year, but I really loved it. It's so fun. I love talking to guests, and I also just love spreading knowledge. It's really a cool medium. As you know, you love it. Right. So I had Happy Agent Co. for a year, and I was like, I should just start a podcast. Why am I not doing this? And so the Happy Agent Co. podcast is really tailored just towards women in real estate and helping them kind of cut through the noise and build a business that they really love that supports their life. If you're a man, you can definitely listen to it. It's still very valuable advice. But I felt like there really weren't a lot of podcasts dedicated to the specific needs and challenges that women face in this industry. So that was my reason for being and starting it.
That's awesome. Now, I think it's great to build communities. Through podcasting is such a great platform to do that. It's not only the people that you get to meet through it, but there's that whole other community of people that you don't know by name or face or anything like that. But your listeners, they really are part of your little tribe, and the tips and advice that you're sharing. It's all questions and things that have probably popped up into their heads, driving from the soccer practice when the phone's going off.
Yeah. And I'm trying to keep it short. So most of my episodes are 15 minutes. Like you can listen to them between showing appointments. Like it's very bite-sized, but I want it to be actionable. And I think real estate agents in podcasting, they're like a match made in heaven, because we're always in our car or like going for a walk with our earbuds, so it's like a really great way to get information without having to be looking at a screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. It was just so great. Thank you.
I really want to thank Lindsay for joining us today, and our conversation really could have gone on a whole lot longer. Remember, if you're interested in learning more about building your own referral-based business, be sure to check out the episode description for links to Lindsay's social channels, coaching program, and podcast, the Happy Agent Co. podcast. So once again, if you think you or someone else on your team has an incredible story or tips to share with our community, send us a message to feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.